Hello, hello. Welcome to Get Good with Git. Oh, it's too quiet now. Hang on, I need to find some music. Welcome to Get Good with Git. I know some folks were looking forward to this earlier in the week, but we had some medical difficulties. So we are doing it now, where things are much better now. But welcome, welcome. I'm so excited to um, teach y'all about Git and looking to have a fun time for the next hour with y'all. So hopefully y'all's Global Hack Week has been pretty good. I'm hoping this will happily round out all the things you've been learning this week at Beginners Week. And then I posted the check-in link in chat, so if you haven't had a chance, go ahead and either type what you're seeing on the screen or go to chat and copy that link. And if you don't see it, and I'm happy to post it again. But we're giving it just a little bit longer for folks to get past the ad break. I'm pretty sure most are by, but you never know. I don't want to start without folks. Don't stress about that QR code. It does just take us straight to mlh.io, but you are more than welcome to visit that site while we hang tight for any last people on ad break. In the meantime, though, let me tell you about myself. Hi, I'm Cecilia. I'm a coach at Major League Hacking. I use she, her pronouns, and I love reading. If you've attended today in Global Hack Week, where I've been presenting, this is fairly standard, nothing new. But for those of you who haven't met me, welcome. I'm so excited to have you on this stream. This is one of our streams that any coach runs this. You get a different flavor of the same topic. So if you find that you are stuck at any point, if you're watching this live, absolutely feel free to drop a question in the chat. I'm more than happy to derail and answer those questions because I think it's valuable. But if you are watching this as a recording later on or rewatching this, do keep in mind that other coaches do run this Get Good with Git workshop. So there's a chance that even if I don't answer your question, someone else might have in a previous stream or in an upcoming stream for future Global Hack Weeks. So just keep that in mind. But that said, I welcome any and all questions you all have. I love getting the chance to dig deeper on things and help you figure things out. Because I think that's a valuable skill to learn. So even if you may be familiar with Git, then you're still here to hang out and vibe. I love that. Help me out in chat if I happen to miss a question or you're like, oh, I can totally take this. Like, show off your skills. Sometimes there may be a point where I don't know the answer, in which case I'll be learning from you. So I really do welcome all sorts of interactions in that regard because I think we all have something to learn. But yeah, so before we get started, we'll talk about a couple of things. We're going to be introducing GitHub, and we're also going to be making sure that you get access to the GitHub Student Developer Pack. And we're also going to learn about version control systems, where you'll actually go ahead and explore Git, and then we'll walk through how you might use it in a typical use case. So for example, starting a project. I forgot to check that I was logged into GitHub. Let me do that really quick. Okay, good. I am logged in. All right, awesome. That's important. I kind of need to be logged in to like show you what you can do. For those of you following along, I will try to keep it as reasonably placed as I can. If I've gone too fast, let me know in chat. If there's like bad visuals or you're not hearing me well enough, let me know. I will do everything in my power to adjust because I want to make sure that folks are able to access this content, whether they're on a phone, tablet, computer, desktop, whatever, knowing that we are all over the place and at all different devices. So exploring Git and GitHub, you don't often hear one without the other. There are some competing products out there. Personally, I actually do agree GitHub is cooler. I do love working with GitHub a lot more than I do with other products. But the underlying thing is that it just enables us to use Git that much easier. But if you're not sure what either of them are, GitHub is a cloud platform for code collaboration. So I like to think of it like Google Docs, but for code. Just not as like, I can see everything everyone's doing all the time. And we'll get into more about that. GitHub is built on top of Git, which is a version control system. And so you'll see that on the right, where GitHub gives you hosting and sharing tools. You can access it online, which again, as you can see from the example, think of it like Google Drive for code. But Git itself is used to track changes to your code, and it can be used with all sorts of different tools. And you can think of it like Google Docs' history feature. Another way I like to think about it to really emphasize like why it's not live like Google Doc, but still has the history, is thinking about it like when you play a video game and you have points in which you can save. Whether you choose to save or you have gone to a save point, or there are specific moments when you're changing a scene that it saves, there's instances that basically checkpoint your progress, whether it's your job or not. The difference is, think of it more like those games that you play where you're in charge of saving things and not the game. So it kind of sucks when you like get all this stuff, have all this progress, and then your power goes out, or you close your device or shut it off by accident, and then you've lost everything up until that save point. In a way, version control is very similar because you're in charge of when you save your code, and you're also in charge of when you share it with other people or upload it to GitHub, for example. So hoping that this variety and examples might help, feel free to ask. Or if you have an example that you prefer to teach people, let me know in chat, because then I can use that in future presentations. Because everyone learns differently and like conceptualizes things differently. And I'm always looking for new examples of how folks are learning to understand things by building on their existing knowledge. Now, our goal is to have you master Git in an hour. We will get you through the basics, but there's so much more out there. Just because I teach you all this stuff in an hour doesn't mean you'll be necessarily an expert. You'll at least have exposure to what we're doing. But you'll be able to actually look into any of the other manuals and instructions and things that are out there that might help you out with when you need it in the moment. And you're always welcome to revisit this. And again, finding our presentations on YouTube, going to the Major League Hacking profile and finding our streams. You can get all sorts of different coaches teaching you the same things, but again, different flavors. So if you are looking to get more familiar with GitHub, go to mlh.link/gettrained. And if you're wanting to look more into like how Git works and what commands you can use and all sorts of things, go to mlh.link/git. Gosh. But why should you use GitHub? And this is the same question you might ask of like, why do you have to use Drive or Microsoft or other products out there for any specific tool or task? And why are there benefits to using GitHub over Git locally or other platforms? Like, the way that I conceptualize saving code is always through Git and GitHub or other platforms if I'm forced to use them. But when I'm doing other things like writing documents, I would use a different tool. And the answer to why use GitHub is, well, GitHub has a lot to offer. From GitHub Copilot, which has become pretty prevalent in today's age, to using all sorts of other things like automations from actions, doing workflow visualizations, getting a feel for what's out there. There is quite a bit. And to be honest, I don't even know everything that's in this table. I just know some of it. Like I know about the GitHub education and about Electron and GitHub issues and pull requests, and I'm looking randomly to see what I know. But the point is, while I know a lot, there's still plenty more to learn. Just learning about Git as a way to save your code at specific times is not enough. Learning the platform that it is using is even better to optimize your coding. So you can learn more about how you can work in conjunction with platforms and with the tools that you're using to better improve your coding process or making sure your deployments work, and plenty else. First up, though, I want to talk to you about the GitHub Student Developer Pack, which if you are a student, and I believe there might be, I think it's either about over 15 or over 18, I forget. But the point is, you have access to the Student Developer Pack. And the Student Developer Pack has tons and tons and tons of resources. If you go back through any of the workshops that I've given that are related to GitHub, you will see that I have spent a very long time, like, basically screaming, the Student Developer Pack is amazing, because it is. A Student Developer Pack is filled with a lot of tools, of courses, of courses not just that GitHub offers, but courses that other folks in other places offer, credits for specific cloud platforms, credits for databases, credits for APIs, and plenty else. So the resources that are available is frankly overwhelming, and to an extent, I actually haven't used most of them because I'm like, I could pick this, but do I need it? And I kind of like get overwhelmed, which means to say you're spoiled for choice. And so if you want to get access to the Student Developer Pack, I do believe it is in fact a partner challenge. Learn more at the mlh.link/GitHub and go there and start getting access to the Student Developer Pack. For partner challenges, if you are not currently a student or for whatever reason are not eligible for the Student Developer Pack, you can still complete that challenge by just marking that you're not eligible, and it will still mark as a completion point. So don't stress if you can't get it, but for those of you who can, it is really incredible to have. And I hope that you'll get a chance to take advantage of it. Because as you can see, there's things like GitHub Copilot where you get free access. I do know we have a free trial now with GitHub Copilot, but free access to anything at pro level is really, really nice. You also get different experiences, like, again, the curated tracks or courses that are available to you, or trials that you can take with other course programs or websites that are out there. GitHub Codespaces, which is cloud-based development. I actually have personally not used that yet, but I hear very good things. And then you have the GitHub Campus Experts, which is leaders in the community, of which I am a retiring campus expert. But there are plenty more, and I'd encourage you to look locally to see who might you be able to connect with to achieve your goals and potentially even lead a new community yourself, or take over an existing one. Now, to add to this, like, that way I'm not just reading off a slide, to really prove, like, I really love the Student Developer Pack. Once upon a time ago, which is not very long ago, I was flying a lot, as I do for MLH, and I wanted to see if I could play around with Git on my iPad, because airplane seats and their little trays are too small for my laptop at the time, before I switched over to a smaller one, which even now I'm like, ugh. Turns out there is a way to access Git on your iPad. And I don't mean like jailbreaking it, but I mean there was like an app that let me do that. And if I wanted access to some other features that I was like, yeah, I kind of do, I would love to be able to, like, I forget exactly what it was, but the point is I was like, yeah, no, I want the pro version. Turns out they actually had partnered with the Student Developer Pack. So as long as I'm on the Student Developer Pack, I have access to Git on my iPad for free at pro level, which I'm like, that's really nice. Like, I could just code on the plane, and I do need internet connection to make those pushes, or like to search things. But if I didn't need to, I could just happily like make save points as I go, instead of being like, oh, I can only hit undo so many times. Oh, I can only do this. And that was so cool to me, that just something I had found while Googling around ended up being a partner of the Student Developer. Like, it had just gone under like the mountain of other resources that I just completely missed it. But that was so cool to me, how many people have partnered with the Developer Pack. So all that to say is, it is extremely effective. It is extremely useful. Use it while you have it. In fact, there's a chance that it may give you an edge at a hackathon, because, hey, let's say you have credits for like a cloud platform. Let's say you have access to things. It's just incredible. So, pitching aside, thank you very much, Crane. You are absolutely right. It's not that you need a college email to get it. You can use your personal email, but just make sure that your profile is complete and your college ID is clear and correct. Now, if some of you have a college ID or a photo ID for college that does not have a expiration date, which mine at my university does not have an expiration date, or it's not clear when it's invalid anymore, you'll have to submit other evidence. And that can be something like an unofficial transcript screenshot, or even a picture or screenshot of your course schedule for the coming semester, or the semester that you're applying in, just to show that you're basically an active student. And this can vary from, and community colleges eligible, certain high schools, I believe, are eligible, and so on and so forth. If you are still having issues, I do know that GitHub does have a comments, there's an issue and then a comment section, which pretty much tells you all the debugging you could possibly do, because sometimes you do still get rejected. It does take about a week or two sometimes to validate someone to get the Student Developer Pack, which is why I'm like, apply now, not at the hackathon you're going to soon. If you apply now, you'll have already gotten it ready, basically ready to access by the time you get to a hackathon, which means you won't get slowed down just doing the application process. So do it now. But yes, so definitely, do your best to get it. If you're having issues, again, reach out to the community here on Discord. Look up the GitHub blog post about, issues with getting access to the Student Developer Pack, because you need things like a billing address and a couple other things filled out just to make absolutely sure that it's all good and grand and wonderful. And if you're still having issues, then you can reach out and contact the GitHub team, and they'll work with you. Sometimes they take a bit to respond because there's so many of you that are so enthusiastic. So just give them some time, maybe bump them once a month or something. And if you're still having issues, bring it back to us back on Discord and see if we can't help you out. So again, really, really, really love the Student Developer Pack. Hey, that's super exciting. I am going to wish you the best and good luck. I wish I could go to a hackathon, but I have ascended so much in my hackathon career that attending is I can't hack anymore. It feels kind of bad. Not because I'm good or anything, but just because I got my PhD in hackathons. I'm an MLH coach. I feel like it's not fair, even though I know I won't win. But yeah, point is, hackathons are great. I love them a lot. I love seeing folks build and grow with hackathons and just be inspired by all the different folks building things. Okay, so I've talked your ear off about the Student Developer Pack and how great it is. Highly, highly recommend. If you do run into questions while we're going through this about going through this presentation and you get stuck on something, I'll try and answer them. I won't spend too long because our goal is to talk about Git and not the student developer pack, but I just really love the student developer pack. Okay, so intro to version control. Why should you use version control systems? And if you understood the video game example, you're like, well, duh, of course I want to save. Unless you're one of those super expert gamers who I don't need to save because I'll beat the game. That's cool. I don't work like that. I need to save every 5 minutes. My anxiety won't let me. And that's a little bit about how I use Git, in case that wasn't obvious. With version control, not only are you able to save point your work, other people can also save point their work that they're sharing with you. Let's say you're all working on a single project. You all can collaborate together, but in chunks of code, if you will. And those chunks of code will have an actual name. But as you can see, there's some initial wording and fancy knowledge here that we'll go over. I do want to introduce you to the language before I really go and define it. So that way you're okay, I have the words to describe what I'm doing, but I don't know what I'm doing. So think of a working directory. If you're familiar with Linux, you probably are oh, directory, folder, psh, done. But if you're not familiar with it, when you work with folders, you will have two types. And this only happens when you are working with Git or any form of version control. So the rest of the world who does not code kind of knows folders. And a folder holds stuff. When it's a working directory or a folder that has Git involved and that's enabled and set up to use Git, it becomes a working directory because what's going on is Git is now going to track your history. So now it's this super folder in that it has a little more functionality because you've added Git to it or enabled Git in it to actually work like a fancy folder that tracks your history. Without that, it's just a regular folder. There's no history, there's no tracking, there's just, here's files. Hope you don't need to save anything over time or see what you did in the past. And there's different ways to make that happen, but Git makes life easier. Now, there's also these things like staging area and local repo and remote repo, all that kind of stuff. We'll get into that. But another way to think of repositories or repos is I like to think of them as project folders, which is more of a mental switch than a physical functional switch, if that makes sense. So we had working directory as a folder that has Git enabled in it, which eventually will bubble up and say your local repo is that. But your local repository, or the thing that you're working on your device, on your computer, no one else can access it except whoever sits down to work at the device that you're using. That is a local, literally in front of you, you can interact with it, a keyboard, all that stuff. That's a local repo. A repo I call a project folder because repositories will often hold a project, and it will include all the folders within it that are related to that repository or project that are important for it to work. And if you're familiar with Node.js, that might be your node modules plus your app.ts or JS or whatever it is you're using. In Python, it can be your environment folder and all the other associated files. In Java, it might be your oh man, I don't remember. Oh no, that's pretty bad. But your com/app/ whatever it is, and then you have your main file, right? But all those folders, there's always a project folder that houses everything that you do. And that becomes your repository mentally. It also becomes the repository that ends up on GitHub, which again is a cloud platform that hosts your repositories or your projects, where your projects consist of all the required files, folders, extensions, etc. that you need. Follow? Kind of? Again, we're slowly introducing the language to you. Don't worry about the git add, commit, push, merge, fetch, all that stuff. We're going to talk about that. I just want you to understand from a folder perspective what's going on. Okay, so everyone gets their own working copy, which is a snapshot, and a repository also consists of many snapshots. But you're probably going to be like, Cecilia, you just told us it's folders. It's all folders. It's all folders all the way down. No, it's also that. The repository means a lot of things. Not only does a repository is your project folder, the repository also has your history of the project for every file, for every folder. So all changes are tracked in your repository. So it has two functions. Mentally, there's it holds my project. Physically, in terms of action, it tracks your history. And again, that's what a Git enabled folder is, where that project level folder has Git in it. Now, working copy, just assume everyone has that. You can look into it yourself. The working copy is less as important than understanding repository. But as you make changes, let's say you have been playing your game and you've entered a new area and you're like, oh, I want to go save because I just like defeated the boss, got all this cool items, and I got a rare drop, whatever it is. So you want to go find where to save, or you want to go ahead and go to your menu and hit save. All these changes that have happened in your game are going to have to be staged or prepared to be saved. So normally in games, we just go, oh, file save, or we go find the save point and say, yes, we want to save. We are the only ones enacting the save option or the same function. But with Git, think of it like those like exploded models of like cars and other mechanisms where you see all the parts blown out to like show all the different things and then it like brings it all together, right? Think of Git similarly, where you are blowing out the save functionality. In order to save something, first you need to say, well, I want to save this specific stuff. So in a game, it might be, oh, I want to save that I got my rare drop. I want to save it in a new file just to show the changes. Because if I ever want to go back to a specific area, like maybe I don't want that stuff. I want to try and like roll for another like set of things. So you might have multiple saves, but you still need to stage what you are saving. In a Google Doc example, that would look like, I would say, let's say you've saved all your changes and you've just added a paragraph to your Google Doc. And you're like, I only want to save this Google Docs paragraph that I just added. But you have to stage it for Google Doc to actually like do it. You're not doing it in Google Doc. Google Doc does it for you where it's like, oh, hey, this is the stuff you've made within this timestamp and this timestamp. So logically, this stuff is going to be staged to be saved and like make sure that we track that this is the change. With Git, again, it's all on purpose. So in order to take whatever changes, so this time it's where you like check, yes, I changed main.py. Yes, I changed library.py. I changed this.py. And you want to only track those because maybe you're like, oh, test.py, that's not done. We don't want to save that yet. You can personally select the pieces that you want to save. And then you stage those saying, hey, I've selected what I want to save. And then you go to your next bit where you write the commit message. So you take all the things that you've set aside that you're like, this is what I'm going to save. Don't worry about the rest of the stuff. Ignore it. You're going to like basically circle it and you're going to write a note to yourself. And that note will be called a commit message. That note should tell future you, hey, yeah, you know why you selected those files? It's because you just added this new feature called whatever it is. And other people won't have access to this. Like, yes, you've done the commit message. Yes, you've hit save, but you haven't actually shared it with people. And so sharing comes from pushing. The way that I visualize this for myself is that I will push my changes up to cloud and I will pull my changes to myself, to my local repo. So pushing up to a cloud platform, to GitHub, is a remote repository, which is basically a copy of your local repo, but only the things you've chosen to send in that commit message and the package that you've created of those saves. Now, when you try to fetch changes or pull things down, your local repository, your folder on your laptop, desktop, whatever, is going to try and fix any conflicts where it's going to say, hey, this line doesn't equal this line. Is it something that we have to worry about being a conflict where it's not going to make sense of it? No, then just merge them. But if there is conflicts, then you have to fix it because Git is only so smart. But the way to understand things is when you are pulling things down, you are doing two operations. You're doing a git merge and a git fetch. Well, technically what's happening is first is the git fetch where you're like, okay, go pull all the information down because how do you merge what you don't have, right? One before the other. So you get your stuff and then you say, hey, here's my stuff. Compare it to my current version. Where does it intersect nicely? And if there's anything that starts impacting each other, go toss it at the human to go fix it. So this like merge conflict, all that kind of stuff, we'll talk about it later. This helps us understand how we're merging things together, how we're keeping track of who did what. So remember in Google Docs history, how you can see, hey, these timestamps show different people editing different spaces, and you can see it based on the color that they're using. Or it says, so-and-so, and then it says like whatever timestamp, and you can like click to see what changes they've made. This is very similar, where as you merge things together, you start to get a timeline of how things have changed. And again, if you want to read that timeline, reading names and timestamps doesn't really help. Reading good commit messages that say, all these files are associated with this feature, or debugged this specific thing that was causing some other issue. And these are sample messages that might make sense in context. They're not great messages, but it starts to give you the idea of how you're helping your future self of like, oh yeah, I want to look for the commit message where I merged our brand new feature that like broke everything. Or I want to check out what it is our commit message is for when we fix that one bug. And so you can go through your commit messages, and ideally you have descriptive enough messages that are very short to read, one sentence, usually like about 10-ish words on average, less than that maybe, that really clearly define like, hey, here's what happened. Here's why this commit exists. And, now I can go find it, let's say 5 years later, you're an intern who comes back and you're like, yo, this commit saying fixed, what did it fix? I have no idea. And as an intern, that's not really going to be helpful for you. But if you come across a thing that says fixed bug number, whatever, and the bug that's linked now has information like this bug occurred when this person did this action and then this action, then you can go, oh, hey, I'm having that bug. Maybe this commit fixes my bug, or it doesn't, whatever. Point is, having good messages helps future you and other people too. Okay, moving on. So let's actually do something. Right? Like, we came here to do something. We came here to not just be lectured at and told, like, download the student developer pack, right? If you don't have Git yet, depending on the platform that you're using or your OS, will determine what you're going to have to get. So if you'd have a Windows machine that is younger than 2018, so like in the last like 6-ish years, did I do math? 7 years. You'll do win-get install through your command line. I have both Windows and Mac, but I also already have Git on both my devices. So for Mac, it's pretty easy. If you have Brew, which if you don't have Brew, you have to go install that, and that will take a bit. You'll use Brew, install Git. And 404, thank you very much as always for the links. I'm going to have to rely on you today for getting those links for me because I'll be demonstrating. But I want to show you what it looks like when you already have Git installed. For me, I have Git Bash. As you can see, it looks like a terminal within Windows. I did have to switch to a specific drive that has all my repositories that I'm using. I'm pretty sure my Git version is actually out of date, but you can type in Git version to your Git Bash, and it'll tell you what it is. And again, I'm pretty sure mine is very out of date because I'm really, really bad at updating my Git. But if I had Windows, which I didn't have the energy today to like set up my laptop and like also share that. Otherwise, I would have. I've done that in past streams. So if you're looking for a Mac demonstration, go ahead to go to past streams or check out anyone else's streams in case they were also using a Mac to get like a better feel for it. But usually with Mac, you can use any of the terminals that you use already there. So terminal, xterm, I think is a Linux one. There's like term that also works as well. I just use Git Bash, which is what comes with Windows when you install Git, and I prefer Git Bash. Like, I often will try and do Linux things through Git Bash because it's very convenient for me. Before they, added the whole Linux thing or internal terminal or whatever it is that they did, can't remember. But the point is, go install things. I'm leaving this slide up. I'm gonna type some of these things for you so that way you can just copy. Hope I don't typo. I really should have copied. Oh, I'm silly. I could have just Control-C, Control-V. So if you're on a Windows, go ahead and use that command. And if you are on Mac, go ahead and use brew install git. All right. So for me, like I said, I already have it installed. I was able to type in git version and install it without issues. If you're having issues installing it where you see that you've installed it on, let's say, Windows, but it's telling you that the command isn't recognized, it's possible that it's not in your environment variables in the path variable. Usually there's an option when you're doing an installation to add it to your path, in which case, yes, please check that if it's not already checked. If it doesn't happen, there are probably links to help debug with that. I'm pretty sure I've also done that previously, but I do want to get through a decent amount of our slides because we have a lot left, that kind of stuff. Depending on your preference, you might also have Git in your Visual Studio Code setup. As you can see on this bottom, I have all these things set up because I am authenticated and logged into GitHub on my Visual Studio Code instance. So that might also be an option if you don't really enjoy using command line, although I will challenge you during this workshop because I like command line and I think you should have a safe time to try it out where you're not stressing about it. But continuing on, again, if you're watching this, you can always pause it and then catch up with us, watch the recording later, or just take notes and go, okay, like this is what I'm going to do. So now that you've verified that it is installed, the next way to ensure, like, yes, everything's good, ready to go, all that stuff, you'll have to go ahead and clone a sample repository. So for me, I'll type in the git clone, blah, 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 blah. And this is just to check, hey, is it authenticated? We don't need to keep this repository after. But if it is unsuccessful, there's a chance you're going to have to authenticate. And that means logging in with the GitHub CLI by installing the CLI or brew install GH, and then running GH auth login. Anytime I get a new device, I always have to run this, and I always forget about it because I'm like, why can't I clone? And then I have to go find all these documentations when I really should just be looking at this slide. But I'm going to go ahead and clone this. So you'll notice that I'm doing this in command line, or a terminal at least, where I am already in the folder or the repository that I already want to be in. You should navigate to where you want to be. And if you're not comfortable with that, the way to do it, let me go ahead and just run that so you can see that it's cloning in. It says, clone into intro, all that lovely stuff. Everything's great and it's done. Nothing red. This is all just status stuff. But let's say I wasn't actually in the right folder that I wanted to download everything into. You can use change directory, CD, and then the path to what you're trying to use. Now again, I'm using git bash. If I were using PowerShell or command line, I would have to do it slightly differently. Change directory doesn't really exist in those, but it does in git bash, which I'm familiar with. Yeah, so 404 has helped me out again, where, hang on. There we go. Yeah, 404's got it. So he's been typing them up for me. I really appreciate it. So that way folks can go ahead and copy it. If you're following on in Twitch or YouTube, which I think most everybody is in. Do I have anybody in YouTube? I have a couple people in YouTube, so hang tight. Let me go ahead and copy this for the folks who are on YouTube. So that's the git clone command. If you are needing to authenticate, just that one. And those of you on Twitch are not going to see this because I'm just sending it to the folks on YouTube because that's okay. And then here's the GitHub auth login for those who need that. Cool. Okay. This 404 has me covered here on Twitch, which I love. I appreciate. Okay. So for me, again, I was able to git clone, no issues whatsoever. So for me, now I can go ahead and check like, hey, is everything truly there by changing directories into that folder. Now again, if you're using Windows, not as intuitive, use the git bash. Otherwise, navigate it through your folder directory. So you're like, okay, well, I know it was installed in folder A. To get to folder A, I need to click on documents, and then I need to go to GitHub, and then whatever else, like however you've set up your stuff. But I'm going to go ahead and go to intro. So I've tabbed to autocomplete because this is the only time that this Git exists because I'm going to go delete it after. I'm going to CD in, and you can see there's something different here. So my repository is here. Let me go ahead and zoom in a lot to really emphasize what's going on. When I was in the repositories folder that I've named, it's a folder that I've named repositories. There's nothing at the end of my folder. Now I've gone to the intro to Git folder right here. And now it has this main, this stuff in blue. It may not be blue for you, it may be a different color. But the point is now you have some indicator that says, hey, there's something different about this folder. So remember how I said you have like a super folder or like a folder with functionality? That's what this is. And let me show you the composition of this folder that makes it what it is. So I'm going to list all the stuff where we have these extra things. So ignore these two. This is just how you like deal with folder navigation. The important thing is this .git folder. That .git is what makes this be a repository, this project folder. Having .git, which is done when you git initialize or git init, or when you clone a Git repository from GitHub or from a specific link, which we have done git clone here, will make it so that there's some form of history tracking. We'll talk about main in a moment, but the point is you'll have something different to basically indicate, hey, you have a repository that is using Git. Now what? Okay, I've lectured. Continuing on. So we don't need that init Git intro, whatever it is. We don't need that one anymore. That was just to prove, hey, did we authenticate? Can we clone things? Yes, great. If not, we gotta go do some debugging. But for me, I know it works because I have Git set up already. The initial setup is always like really like, am I doing this right? Do I do this? Sometimes you need to make a key and a whole bunch of other stuff. So I've talked about we're cloning where we pulled down something, remember, from cloud, from GitHub, where there was something that existed elsewhere and we went and got it. This is like copying a folder from Drive into your personal drive. It's still all done in the cloud. But the difference is normally when you copy those folders, that folder is going to be in your drive, but it's not going to be on your local computer unless you have, Git Drive, the Google Drive, like backup set up and everything. And then you can like navigate it through differently. We have to do the extra step because remember thinking about that exploding mechanism of like looking at mechanisms as they're exploded out. We have to do everything ourselves, which if you don't like doing things yourselves, I'm sorry. There's automations out there. I don't know them. I like doing it myself because I'm like, ooh, I get to do individual commands, blah, 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 whatever. The point is, now we need to do it in reverse. How, like, the cloning, easy peasy, forking, easy peasy. That's just a matter of like, hey, I like that repo. I want my copy. And that's where you go download it. Easy, done. What if you make something? You make a project and you want to share it with people. How do you do that? And that's where this creating a local Git repo comes in. So to create a directory / repository, remember, a directory or repository is a folder that does Git things and hosts your project. So remember, it's this folder that now is a super folder and has extra functionality. And then we need to navigate to it. So you saw how I CD'd or changed directory into the repo. When you look into a folder that doesn't have Git, you need to tell it, this is going to be a repository. And you use Git init to do that. So I'll show you. And then I'll paste the commands for YouTube because 404's got me covered on Twitch. So first up, we have making your directory. Then you have entering that folder. So this CD is the same as if I went to my folder system and I like let's say I open my folder. Do I have it up? Let's say I'm in my folder directory here and I'm like, oh, intro to Git. That's CD. That's what's going on when I say CD. By the way, I know that was super small, but the point is I'm like, the literal act of typing CD and then the specific folder you're looking is the same as you scrolling through and clicking, I want to be in this folder. Like, it sounds silly, but like, roll with me. Okay, so coming back to this, we don't need this folder anymore. So if you followed me and you changed directory to intro to Git, that's a mouthful, CD space, period, /. This says go up one directory. If I left it as /, that just says change to the current directory that I'm in, which isn't going to work because that's not how that works. 2 dots and a slash is the action to go up a folder in your hierarchy. So again, where I clicked into intro to Git, that's the same as hitting the back button. Every time you say .. that's like clicking the back button on a folder. There's a point where you can't go anymore, or sometimes you find other stuff, but don't worry about it. Okay, so I'm going to make a local repository, right? CD is a cursor and. It's the CD is the command that says, hey, I'm going to do something. And so with mouses or with mice, you kind of just are like, you're clicking around doing specific things, and depending on what you click on, the action will happen. CD is one specific action, and it's saying, I want to change directories or change folders, which is why it's CD. Okay, so local repository. Remember, local repository means I'm the only one that sees it. Anyone who is at my computer can see my stuff because it's on my laptop, desktop, whatever it is I'm using. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to mk make dir directory. mkdir is make directory or make folder, which normally in a folder directory, when you're using your mouse, that's the same as going into somewhere that you want to be, that you want to make a new folder, and you'd right click and hit new folder, or you would, click the new folder button, whatever it is used. This is again another operation where you're saying, I want to do this specific thing in this specific folder. So you have to be aware of your path. Currently, I am in repositories. If you're familiar with like linked lists and how you always have a head, this is one of, so let's say my D drive is head, and then I'm going to my repositories, and then I'm going to the next folder, and I'm drilling down into my hierarchy of folders. So you have to tell it what path it needs to be in. So you could actually say, like, what if I wanted to do a folder in the, if I can type, intro to Git, and I want to make a new folder called temp. If I can type, this would work. But for now, I just want to make a new folder in the repositories because this is going to be a new project folder or repository. So I'm going to call it my first repo like everybody else did. If I can spell, I can't. I'm getting like too excited that I'm like shaking. And so there's no status message. There's nothing telling me like you did it, it's made. There's no error messages. So technically it's made. I hope I spelled it right. So if I want to navigate to this now, you'll see that the path hasn't changed. I'm still in the repositories folder. I could do what I did up here where I said list everything and give me all the information. You can also just do ls, right? And it'll show me everything. But I want to enter, where is it? My first repo. You'll see that I have highlighting for the Git bash stuff because it's nice like that. So what I would want to do is then cd into my first, and I can tab to autocomplete as long as I've typed enough things. Otherwise, it's going to be like, do you want this one? Do you want this one? Do you want this one? Because if I just put M, it's going to go through all of my folders that start with M. So I'm in my first repo, but it still doesn't have the fancy main that happened when I went into intro to Git. So how do I get that? Well, to do that, I need to type in git init, and it will say, hey, I've just initialized an empty Git repository in this folder, and it's added that .git, and now we have main. Hooray! Now we have a Git repository. That means if I do this, it will look the same as intro, but it won't have the files because we haven't created. That's okay. The point is, we have converted a folder into our super folder that is a Git repository. But again, we haven't shared this. We haven't told anyone. There is nothing that we've done to make this available online. Does this exist in my computer? Always, forever. Like, until I delete it, it will be there. Does it exist online? No, because I have done none of the commands to say, I need you to put this stuff in GitHub or whatever other platform I'm using. I have only said, I'm making one for me and anyone who sits in my chair at my desktop, because that's what I'm working off right now, right? So let's go back. The next thing is to add files. When you make an empty Git repository, there's nothing really you can do. It's not recommended, let's put it that way. You can make the Git repository and then you're like, all right, cool. How do I tell people about it? Well, usually you use a README. A README is exactly what it sounds like. README. There's information about it. The README should contain information about what the project is or about the authors. Don't dox yourselves. But it should have information like, hey, here's how you install your project. Here's how you make changes. Here's how you do this. Or here's the libraries or something like that. It should have information that helps someone use it. Or future, you'd be like, oh yeah, this is how I ran stuff. Okay. So we had a super folder already when we cloned it. We left that folder. We got out of it. We deleted it because we're not using that anymore. That was to show, yes, we're authenticated. We're good to go. So this is brand new. We showed you how to clone something and pull something down with the equivalent of downloading a whole project. What we're doing is now making our own new project elsewhere with the intent of saying, well, what's the reverse? Let's say somebody else has made a project. We now know how to download it. But what we don't know how to do is how to make a project that someone else can download it. And that's what we're doing. Good question. Very good question. Okay. So this is where we can deviate. And we could have deviated earlier, but I never remember how exactly to set stuff up because I don't use this. If you like using UI, I'm not knocking it. Good for you. That is witchcraft. I do not understand how to use it. I truly don't. Things have changed so much. I prefer using command line because I have the most control of things. However, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't use one or the other. In fact, it's probably good to use both because everybody uses a different thing. Depending on the company I've worked at determines what the preference of how you use GitHub is, which is bizarre, but okay, like it is what it is. So I do have Visual Studio Code open. I'm going to create a new window. No, I don't care about the saves. And I'm going to make a new file. Okay? So this is how I would do it in Visual Studio Code. Great. And you can add some text to it, blah, 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 right? So then I would go and hit File Save and save it to the folder, my local repo, what was it? My first repo. I would go and save this file. I'm not going to do it through Visual Studio Code. You know how to navigate a file system, I hope. And if not, please tell me so I can like briefly go over it. But I'm going to do it through command line because I think it's good to know in case you need to do something that your UI can't. It does happen. It's getting better. It is getting a lot better than it used to be. But it doesn't change that it's rough out there. So, and I do realize we are running out of time. Oh, we got to speed up. Okay. So I'm going to basically just copy this stuff. Oh no. Let me not be so, I gotta resize. 404, you say it's easier, but like I like making my life hard. So, okay, so I never remember this exact thing. This is a markdown header, so my first repository. Did I spell that right? Yes. And then I'm going to pipe that to readme.md. There's different ways to do it. You could do touch, and then the file name where it's touchreadme.md, and then you can go and edit that. Normally I would teach you Vim or VI, but we're running out of time, so I can't do that. I've done that in previous videos, so yes, you can always watch recordings back at the Major League Hacking/streams page, where if we don't finish this, I would encourage you to go to that one. Go find an old video of mine where we actually finish. I haven't done this in a while, so I'm taking a bit. There's lots to explain, especially since it's Beginner's Week. So if you are adding files to commit, you would use UI. That is a good question. I don't know because I don't use UI. But my assumption, based on what I do know, is commit and sync, I want to believe, is committing, is you make your message, and then you're pushing stuff up, but you're not checking if there's changes. Whereas commit and push is like, or commit and sync is where you are checking for changes, and commit and push is like I'm just pushing stuff and not checking. That was confusing. I'm sorry. I was checking other stuff. Yes, the slides won't be shared with you, but they will be available on past workshops where people have gone through it. UI can be GitHub Desktop, can be Git Tortoise, there's so many apps out there that do visual GitHub. Git Kraken is another one. Pick your preference. Everybody seems to like GitHub Desktop though. Excuse you, I did. I would never do that to you. I would never leave you all hanging like that, because I know for a fact I always teach everybody the way to exit Vim, because I'm like, this is the top most asked question in Stack Overflow year after year. Anyway, what we got? So we're gonna commit. So we're gonna do git status because this is a good habit to have. If there are untracked files, so untracked literally means we're not tracking changes. If changes happen in there, it's out of my hands. But I want to track it because I want timestamps and like save points every single time. So I'm gonna git add readme.md. It is good habit to type individual files. Do not just say git add star. I explained that in a past video. Go find it. But the point is, don't do that. Don't do git add dot. Don't add the folder of files or individual files. Trust me, you don't want to add things like your environment variables or your API keys or things that people don't need to know. So let's go do git status again. Now it's green and it says, hey, there's some changes to be committed. So we've staged our changes. We're going to now commit it, which means we're going to wrap it in a message. And we're going to say git commit -m, and we're going to say, I think it's usually like initial commit, because the first time you commit is usually initial commit. So we're going to name it that. Normally I might say created README file or updated README file to include blah, whatever. Git commit. Now it says something has changed. It says there's been an insertion, blah, blah, blah. We have stuff. If I do a git log, one second. If you do git log, you will see your history. I just need to check something really quick. Yes, okay. So I did a git, oh, Jesus. So you can see, this is your commit message. This is your hash. Now you have head, and you have initial commit message. Okay, great. We have stuff. We are zooming. We're not actually zooming. We're running out of time. Now, the thing I had to do is I need to git push. And right now we haven't configured anything to actually push anything. So all of our like timestamps, you can choose to never push this to GitHub. This means you will never have access to this stuff outside of this computer until you do something else. That's okay. There are people who do that for security reasons, and that's fine. However, if you want to collaborate with anyone, it needs to go onto a cloud platform. Okay, this is the instructions for using VS Code. Just hit the commit message, or the commit button. I've done it in a past video. We're going to skip it. Going to github.com. I do have this pulled up. Let me go and... There's like 20 billion different ways to make a new repo, like this button over here in green, or you can like go here and go create new repository. There are so many ways you can create a new repo. The point is, there's some other stuff you gotta fix. Oh, they've changed some stuff. Whoa. All right, so normally I would choose me because I have a bajillion projects that I'm on. Just choose your own username. You can name it whatever you want. You can name it Crispy Waffle, like they said. You can name it My First Repo. The only time you can't name it My First Repo is if you already have a My First Repo. Then it has to be My First Repo too. But if somebody else has My First Repo, you can still have My First Repo on your user. That's where the conflicts start. Just a heads up. Yes, we're keeping it public. No, we're not using a template. No, we're not adding a README. No, we're not adding a git ignore. No, we're not adding a license. I have talked about this in a past video. We are running out of time, so I can't do this for you. Repo name here. Let me do something really quick. You don't need to see all the fucking projects I'm on. Sorry. You don't need to see all the projects I'm on. Okay, so repo name here is good. Let's create the repository. I should have made this public. Oh well, or private. Now we have all this lovely stuff. What I really care about is down here, this quick setup. If you have never set up a repo before and you're not adding those files, remember how I said no template, no license, no git ignore. This is what happens. Instructions that tell you how to create a new repo, which is the stuff that we already did. We did this part. Now we got to do this part. Or what we can do is just do this part. So the same to bottom two. Like it never happened. Like nothing's ever happened. It's great. Okay, so let's go follow those instructions. I'm going to go back to the slides. So we did that. What we could do, which I don't like, is copy. Oh, no, that's important. We should actually do that. Let me go paste that for folks. We do need to add the remote repository. This is our link. This says, hey, I know we have something in cloud. I know we have something in local. How do we connect this? That URL that I'm highlighting, where you need to replace it with your username and your repository name .git, is how you make that connection. Otherwise, they're just going to float in space completely unconnected. So again, thinking like linked lists, you need to make that connection where like, hey, these two talk to each other and they go back and forth. Oh my God, we are running out. Actually, we could go over. So let me check in with y'all. I'm willing to go 15 minutes over because we do not have another stream after. Would you like me to go over? If you would like to leave at the hour mark, please do. That's totally fine. If you want to stay or watch the recording later, even though it's longer, please let me know so that way I can decide whether I'm going to cut this off or keep going. Because I just checked the schedule and we have a little bit of a break between. Okay, we're going to go over. I will check in at the 15-minute mark, even an hour over. I don't want to do an hour over. I'm too tired for that. I would like to rest. Okay, I will slow down a bit. But I will not go over the things I just skipped because I have actually talked about it in the past video and I do want us to get through the branches. Okay, let me paste this link. 404, can you, actually, I can do it now. All destinations. Okay, you'll have to update that. Totally forgot I had time. Oh my gosh. All right, git remote, add origin. What this is doing is, again, building that branch. We're saying git, our command, remote add. The thing on top, the thing in cloud, is a remote. The thing in local is going to be our origin for now-ish. Git add origin, HTTPS, you should copy this, not type it out. See, because I'm typoing. My first repo. So here's a thought. What if my project repository locally is not the same name as my GitHub repository, but they're the same project? That can happen. It does happen. That's okay. You could have named your repository demo, and you could have named it in GitHub My First Repo. And that would have been okay because as soon as you make that connection where you're saying, hey, take my local thing and connect it to whatever this URL is, it would have been fine because you made the connection. So it's okay if it's different, though I wouldn't recommend it. So I'm going to go ahead and hit enter. And now it tells me I have some branches. We're going to do some more. And then we need to git branch -m. I can't explain much about that one. Let's see if it shows up now. Nope. Okay, cool. Let me move this out of the way so folks can see it if they're using Visual Studio Code. And then git. Y'all go to sleep. I'm worried about you all. I'm trying to still move fast. I don't want to go too far over. Okay, so main. What is main? You're looking at this and you're probably like, well, of course it's the main folder, duh. But then you start seeing in this screenshot, there's like create new branch. What is branch, right? And you're probably thinking maybe it's like trees, or maybe it's like a decision branch or something like that, right? You're on the right path. So, God, it's only 11 a.m. here. We're gonna go ahead and push our stuff. So git push -u origin main. I don't have to do that every single time. After I do it the first time in CLI, I can just type git push and it'll be fine, which is great. But if you're in Visual Studio Code, here's stuff. I don't know how to do it in Visual Studio Code. I've done it in the past, and I progressively have less and less of an understanding, I found. Okay, so it's saying it's not found. I may have done it wrong. Oh, yes. I added a slash, possibly. Oops. GitHub.com has no. Oh, haha, it's because I named it repo name here. That's my bad. All right, hang on, let me fix that. So this is what I mean. The names need to match from the cloud URL side, but the project folder doesn't need to. You're just watching me panic about running out of time. Hang on. Active debugging in a beginner workshop. I want to change remotes. One moment. You say I'm speedrunning it like a champ. I am not. I am not. Okay, here we go. I want to get remote V. Yes. This is how you debug. You Stack Overflow and pray. If I can type, because I can't type. This is great for the mini event that's coming. Okay, so right now it says that it's going to the my first repo git, which is obviously the wrong URL. I need to change it by going to git remote set URL origin and then put the correct one. Which I have to type out because gitbash.com/. It's okay. This is probably good because I was going to teach you all how to fix your Git problems, forgetting that I've created myself a Git problem. Called it repo name. Shame on me. I should have paid attention. Okay, so git remote set URL origin. This is because we already have something because I goofed. Main. Is it that one? Actually, I should just up. Oh, by the way, if you don't know, use the up arrow to just go through your past commands. It is not 11 p.m. for me. It is 11 a.m. I just can't. This is funny. Let's go check the Git remotes. Okay, it is the correct one now. Can I just git push? There we go. That's the command I wanted. Git push. This is what I'm familiar with. I'm like, what are these other ones? I've never used that. There we go. Doesn't like the HTTPS. Okay. I'm going to go Google that really quick. Hang on. No, people don't use HTTP as much. I still use that. Not supported. Remote. Did I do a wrong link? HTTPS GitHub.com. Repo name here, .git. Did I misspell it? No, I did. I got it. Oh. actually know what's going on now. I'm Googling this. This is what I get for trying to go fast. It's okay. Fine. Git remote remove. So I am using Stack Overflow for this. Okay, we have fresh set. We're going to copy because I have not learned my lesson. This is the same. We're going to copy. We're going to paste. And we're going to try again. That looks right. There we go. Okay. So what you've watched me do, I have Googled. Yeah, I do have a lot of anxiety. I Googled it and then pulled it up. I Googled the error I had. So you saw I kept getting fatal protocol HTTPS is not supported. I think what happened is I tried to Control V or Control Shift V. And when you do that in Git Bash, that introduces random characters because it doesn't Control Shift and then V is going to introduce a character in this kind of terminal. I don't think this would happen in a Linux machine, in a Mac machine, but it would happen in Windows, which is why I don't usually develop on Windows, to be honest. But as you saw, I was going through and I'm like, I know the git remote command. I know the git remote add origin because it's like right here in the branch stuff, right? The way I was debugging was looking for, well, I know I need to use some kind of remote add origin. I also know I need to get rid of my origin. I also know that I need to change how I'm like setting up the branches and whatnot. So sometimes Git will try to help you out, as it tried to, but I wasn't reading the error properly, so shame on me. But eventually it worked. Very chaotic. But the point is, if you're getting errors, go Google it and then go pull it up on Stack Overflow and then read it. So this is the warning. If you learn nothing else but this, Git, with great power comes great responsibility. Git is incredibly powerful. If you don't know what you're doing, you will royally mess up history. And I really mean you could mess up history. I have horror stories. That's not for today. I'm sure I've shared it in a past video. But in order to like make sure, okay, the other thing we're trying to do was connect the remote repository and local repository, and then I messed it up and then had to like deviate. And we're finally at the point where like they're connected. Because what's going to happen is I'm going to refresh and this will all go away. Now we'll have the README that I made. So this is what we were doing. That took way too long. But what I was trying to do with this, with the branching or the setting up the origin, is saying I want my local repository, the thing on my desktop, to now be accessible to other people online. Like people could go ahead and go find this link now because this exists. If I had kept it on my desktop and stuff, then nobody would ever be able to access it. What is origin? Let's go Google it. What? If I can type. I can't type today. This is a problem. I have to do a type racer thing today. What is Git origin? Let's go to, do I have the docs maybe come up? GitHub docs. Will you tell me what an origin is? So I will put this on the screen in a moment. This is not what I needed. Okay. So I was trying to find one that explained it somewhat well instead of just being like Git origin, Git remote origin. Like that's not going to help you if you use it in this context of a sentence. You're still not sure what it is. Origin refers to the default remote repository. So when I made that new repo on GitHub and I said, yes, create new repository, that became the origin. And in order to connect your local and your remote repository, you need to build a link, right? So yes, origin is going to be your primary upstream cloud, online, however you want to refer to it, repository that you will push your changes up to and pull yours and other changes. Does that make more sense? There's a bit of a delay. In the meantime, I'm going to go to the next slide. I'm not getting an answer, which I don't know. No, okay, still not good. All right, let's go find a different explanation. I'm not doing a great job. Origin is the name. No, that's okay. You're allowed to not understand things. That was very hectic and very confusing, what should normally be a straightforward process. Not your fault. That's on me. So my understanding of origin has generally been this. this online version where it says my repo here, this thing that I created. Origin, though, is not what I've created here locally on my desktop. Origin is going to be where everyone else can pull from. Call it your original copy, even though that's not actually the case of what's happening. Your original copy to you is going to be what you made on your desktop or your laptop or your iPad or however you're developing. But the origin for everybody else, everyone who downloads your file, your project, your whatever, every time you go and download your project on another device, the origin is going to be what's on GitHub. So think of it like an origin point. In drawing, that's a perspective where everything combines into one point. And an origin in GitHub is kind of the same, of where this is the point in which everyone can download this project. Okay, good, better. Back to where we were. Branching, totally not a hard topic, but it can be, even though we just tried to set up that. Okay, let's talk about branches. So branches I initially mentioned as like, are you thinking about trees? Are you thinking about decision nodes and how, or decision branches? Are you thinking about things that separate from an original point? Branches is mostly that. We saw that we named something main. And for me, main, or as formerly known as master, is the tree trunk that is everything. So your project is a tree. And in your tree trunk, you have a main, what creates everything that branches off from it eventually. So branching is critical for when you're like, hey, I'm doing all this work, but I want to deviate, or I want to do something different because I want to try something out, or I want to try something without messing up my current work. So think of it like when you're working in Google Docs and you're like, hey, I want to make some changes, but I don't want to mess up my original document, right? You might duplicate your document and then go do all your changes so that way you never lose the original version. Or in a video game, you might go and say, okay, I'm going to save here in a new file, and I'm going to go back to my old save because I want to see what happens if I do something differently. Like maybe you've saved, you have a conversation that you're like, oh, I picked the wrong choices. I want to go back and do something different, and then save elsewhere and see what is the difference in ending. Like some people will just play games that have multiple endings, and so they'll have multiple save files so they can get those different endings, right? Small tweak to that. Take that same where you're leaving the main part. With GitHub, not every branch will come back, but most will come back to the main branch, merge in, and keep going. So depending on how you view time, whether it's up, down, left, right, or however you prefer to orient yourself, assume that you're going to have some form of initial instance when history starts. So for us, history started with that first commit message that was initial commit. So we have a point in history that we've saved, right? And next, I'm going to add some stuff, and we have another save. And so as we keep going down, there's more save points. But at some point, I might say, hey, what if I could do this function better? I'm going to branch, and I'm going to do it differently here, but everyone else is still going to keep working on stuff in the main branch. So I'm still back here in time, connected to this one point, while everyone's like 3 or 4 steps ahead. So eventually, your branch, if we shift the timeline down, should catch up to those missing 3 steps and then merge back in, presuming it was successful. If not, just it's a dead branch, ignore it, leave it, whatever. So does that kind of make sense? Where as you are building your save points in your code, sometimes you need to deviate. And there are different coding paradigms that say you should always branch. And what I mean by that is when you're doing your main, there is agile development, which is a software engineering term, where when you are working on stuff, your main branch should always work. Anyone should be able to download it and it works. Like they can run it, they can use it, they can do whatever while you're doing all your features on the side. And then, you come back together and you say, oh, here's the new working version where you have like this new feature. And so that's a way of keeping stuff. So right now, this is showing you the main version of your project where you have a script.js and you're just repeating printing asterisks or pound or stars or whatever it is, right? The next thing that you want to do is, what if you wanted to change it from repeating asterisks for however many times to turning it into a pyramid? And that's where they're saying, where you have, again, that main, and then you're like, I want to deviate. I want to do something else. Everybody else can keep doing stuff, but like for now, here's what's originally here and here's what I want to do. And that's where this custom period comes in, or pyramid comes in. So in this instance, you can see that now there's a reason for it to come back together. And so when you want to merge it back together, remember we talked about that, where things merge together, you start looking for conflicts, because usually things will come together, but you might have some things interfere with each other. So in this instance, there was no conflict. It just came together, and that's just by merging. Literally the command is merge, which is really nice. It's not so nice when you have to fix things, but the point is it's nice now. So does that kind of make sense? Simple branching is that you branch out, you do your thing, you merge back in. Branch out, do thing, merge back in. There's different types of branching. Like I said, one where you have main always working, and every time you branch, it's for anything you're doing that could break things. And once you've confirmed that you don't break things, you merge it in. Other times, people will work on independent branches. And depending on when they're done with stuff, they'll merge their branches back in, and so people will build on each other. Sometimes people will just work on main and then branch when there's bugs, fix it, and then come back. But then depending on the type of branching that you do, may or may not lead to more or less merge conflicts, where those things start impacting each other. We'll talk about that. But we're not going to do the activity because we are so out of time. However, if you and a friend are wanting to practice Git and using Gits, I would recommend you take a look at this slide, and then you take a look at this slide. So the point of what's going on here is forcing a merge conflict to happen. You can see on the very bottom of step 3, it says that you're going to receive an error, and it's going to be a merge conflict. So we'll talk about what that is and how you actually merge things together. How to catch up in time when you are working on an old branch. That we're going to talk about. There's different things where you can merge directly. You can rebase, which is a type of merge. And then there's playing steps in order, which is a fast forward merge. Or fast forward rebase? I forget the exact one, but it's fast forward something. I think it's merge. Is that what it means when version types are nightly? Depends. It might be that they always push something nightly. It might be that they're always working on something. All sorts of different things. It very much depends on the developers. Excellent question. We might be able to mimic that. I'll try. I think I'll be able to do this with the next few slides. Because this is how I teach merge conflicts when you're doing it by yourself and you're wanting to understand. Because sometimes you don't have a friend that's available that's like, hey, do you want to do merge conflicts? Because everybody's going to be like, oh, no. Everybody gets scared about merge conflicts. So this is how you do it yourself. But yes, I will teach you how to catch up in time verbally. I think I've done it in a past workshop that wasn't necessarily getting good with Git, but I did it in a past one where I talked like advanced Git in a past Global Hack Week. There might be more on that one, but I can definitely do this one, which will start to help you with that. Okay, so again, merge conflicts. We know that normally, let's say we go to this example. Let's say we have J's fruit list, 1, 2, 3, mango, apple, banana. Straightforward. It's all in the main branch, which means we have some kind of working code in the main, and we go and say, I want to make a branch to change the fruit list. And so this is kind of what Sked was talking about, where like, what if I'm doing something and someone else pushes something ahead of time, right? And so right now, Jay has changed their fruit list to watermelon, apple, and banana, whereas Lisa has changed it to pineapple and orange and banana. So let's manually look at the merge. 3, no issues, no change, not going to be a merge conflict. 2, orange or apple. But if we look at the history, originally, 2 was apple, 2 stayed apple, but what changed in this commit was orange. So that's not going to be a conflict because of the timestamps. And this is the easy way to understand it. It's not the actual answer, but it's the easy way that I understand it. This is how I'm teaching it because this is what makes sense to me. Between these 2 commits, the only thing that changed with Jay was watermelon. The only things that changed with Lisa were pineapple and orange. But because apple didn't change and orange did, Git, if it had a brain, or the way that its logic is like, oh, well, apple didn't change, but orange did, so I'll just rewrite apple. Because the time of how things land on each other, apple is going to be rewritten by orange. No issues, fine. Where it freaks out is 1, because now One is not mango. It's watermelon or pineapple. And Git, its little brain, its little logic kind of is like, no. It just shuts down. It like error codes. It like, the beep from the old internet, dial up, all that kind of stuff. It doesn't know what to do because humans are the one who have to determine, is watermelon the one that needs to change or pineapple? Or do we keep both? Does that make a little more sense? So again, banana, no change, no issue. 2, apple became orange, no issue because it changed. 1, watermelon or pineapple or both. Don't know what to do because which one is important. Timestamp doesn't quite matter here so much as the fact that now there's 2 changes in the same spot and it doesn't know which to prioritize. And there's no way to really get around this. This is just merge conflicts. So what do you do? So normally, let's say Lisa is ready to merge things in and Jay has already done his commit. Now you're like, well, what's going to happen to my let's say on Lisa, what's going to happen to my code? What am I going to do on my end? And then Jay, the main branch, like, what's going to happen there? So we ran into this idea of merge conflict in the previous one. Let's talk about how to fix it. So as you can see, after reviewing her code, Lisa's PR is merged to main, but when Jay attempts to pull using a fetch and merge, because we remember, we are pulling down changes, and when we pull down changes, we take these changes and compare it to our local repository, and we slap them together. But because of the merge, sometimes there's conflict. Yes, so this is how fast forward works. Normal git pull. Let's say people have made changes in different spots in the file, but none of them have made changes in the same line. Git just stacks. It says, let me just play the changes forward. And it just says, hey, this changed, then this changed, then this changed, then this changed, then this changed. It literally is like a zipper. And that's called a fast forward merge. I'm pretty sure it's fast forward merge. It's, again, when it's like, oh, line 20 has been changed twice. What do we do? Oh, God. And Git was like, hands off, it's human time, not me. So that, I know we're not quite there at the actual trying it yet, but this is what I was explaining. Banana didn't change, orange did, apple didn't change. And so we're like, oh, well, that's logically, somebody overwrote that sentence on purpose. Looking at a Google Doc, let's say. I know I'm really hammering this home, but I really want to make this as least scary as possible because when people first want to run into merge conflicts, they flip out. Which fair, because it can be very overwhelming. Because you're like, I don't know what to do, and what is head, and what is tail, and what is this? So that's why I'm going over it so much. When you have a change that has happened and something else has not changed, as you said, change is prioritized. When 2 things change at the same time, it doesn't know which one to prioritize. Just timestamp is not sufficient. Because, let's say, Jay did his work last week and Lisa did her work this week. Timestamp doesn't change what needs to change. Okay, so what does it look like in Visual Studio Code? And I do use VS Code to actually look at things. This is what it's going to look like. You're going to have something called head. You're going to have something basically called an incoming change or tail. And it's going to highlight the area in which Git is freaking out. Your job is to decide, which one do I keep? You could use these options up here. I tend to get confused because I'm like, I don't know which change I need. If you happen to be very skilled, you can choose the appropriate change. If you're not skilled, you can do it manually. Even though it's highlighted like this, even though there's buttons, all you have to do is delete these carets and the head, because these are text that's inserted in the file. Git will tell you, regardless of what IDE you're using, regardless of what files you're using, regardless of how you're coding, Git will insert the conflict to the files that it's happening. So you'll know which ones are conflicted. So right now we know readme.md with the fruit list is having a conflict where there's going to be this marking for head, these equal signs, and then these markings for change fruit, which is the commit message. So if I were doing this and I wasn't comfortable with using these buttons, I would just say, well, I want both because things have changed. In which case, I just delete line 1, line 4, line 5, because maybe I don't need the comment anymore, but that's an optional thing, and line 7. It's not actually a conflict, I just need to merge them both and then figure out how I'm going to change the numbers. So I can do that manually by fixing the text. If I only wanted J's, I could just delete lines 6 and 7, and then delete line 1, because that's the thing that's saying, hey, we need to get rid of all the merge conflict key items. So we need to get rid of 1, 4, and then whatever I need to get rid of from Lisa's stuff. Or if we flip it and say, oh, we don't need Jay's stuff, remove still all the key items of a commit or a merge conflict, which is line 1, line 4, and line 7, and then remove whatever it is I need to get rid of after that. So resolving them. This is more about the activity and like making it work and whatnot. I promise you I'm going to actually like go through and show you how to force a merge conflict with just yourself, because it can happen if you're developing on different devices. There's this thing called rebase, which might be helpful. How do I put this? Great power, great responsibility. Learn about rebase. Get a better understanding of it. I have definitely explained it in a past, not Get Good with Git, but a past like general Git video that I've done before we started doing these, and that will help you understand rebase, I think. But as you can see, it's the same stuff. You can follow the IDE prompts, or you can manually resolve the conflict by removing the identifiers. And then you just commit the new change as a resolved conflict. So you fix it, and then you tell people that you fixed it. But let's actually do it. Okay, let's go make this. Let me go open Visual Studio Code. Okay, let me go open folder. My first repo, select folder. Yeah, don't save, I don't need that. Okay, so right now, what I have on GitHub is this header, my first repository, and in my file, I have my first repository. So I'm gonna force a merge conflict on purpose. Here's how I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna just add my first repository 2, and I'm gonna not commit. I do need to go save, so I've saved it. I'm gonna go into the file, because GitHub lets me do this. I'm gonna go edit the file through GitHub, and I'm gonna name this GitHub repository 1. I'm gonna commit the changes. I'm naming it this for me, committing it directly to the main branch. So now we have a history of our initial commit and our force conflict. Everyone else in the world can see this, okay? Now let's go back to me here on my laptop, let's say, or my desktop. I'm gonna go here, Git status. Oh look, I need to track things. It's been modified, so git add readme. And now I'm gonna say git commit -m, and I'm gonna go and give it an ID of 2. This is for us to see what's going on, because we know which one is which, and we're forcing a conflict. Okay, so I've made a commit. I need to push this now, and it's gonna yell at me. So it's telling me that my push from my desktop, my local repository, is broken. It's saying that there's a merge conflict, because not only do I have work that I don't have locally, I need to go pull that. So let's go pull. And now it's going to tell me I have an issue. Automatic merge failed. There's no red, because originally the push failed. And that usually for me tells me not only do I have things I haven't pulled. So when you commit, it's good to pull. It doesn't always happen that way. Sometimes you go to push and then you're like, oh, I goofed. It happens. So I've tried to pull. It says it's auto merging the README. Conflict. Okay, let's go back. So remember how I said I use Visual Studio Code? Sometimes I get uncomfortable with these buttons. But now we can see which one's which. So the head, the current change, is my local repository. Remember we said my first repository 2 is going to be my local instance on my desktop. And my first repository, the first commit I made, number 1, is going to be on GitHub. So now we have that conflict, right? And so what I could do is say, well, I want to keep both, whatever. And I could say accept both changes. And all it will do is get rid of this text here, here, and here. That's lines 1, 3, and 5, right? And maybe I don't actually want that. I want neither of them, in which case I'd still get rid of 1, 3, 5, and then, change the names or whatever. Or maybe I want the current change, because my local change is more important or is a more valid change than the one that was originally done on GitHub. So remember, we're using 1 and 2 to look at things. So current change is always going to be whatever I did. This is always going to be whatever the other person's stuff is. I know, it's super messy. I'm so sorry. This is so annoying, which is why I'm spending so much time on it. All I did, and the thing is, I did it myself. I forced a merge conflict by just making a change on the cloud instance of GitHub and making a change at the same time on my local instance. So remember, local is me. I can only access it on my desktop. Anyone who sits at my desk can access it. Remote is anyone in the world can access. And this happens all the time. So force it to happen so you can practice how to get over your fear of it. Honestly, every time I see a merge conflict, I kind of have this little like, oh, I'm going to lose it. Like, what have I done? Oh no. And I freak out. And then I'm like, okay, let's go find the files. Let's go read the code. What's the change that I need to make? Sometimes I need both. Sometimes Git freaks out and is like, this is a merge conflict. I'm like, no, it's not. You got a weird line thing going on. And then you just delete stuff. Those are nice. Sometimes it's that you need to choose one or the other and you don't know, in which case rubber duck with somebody. That's okay. You might go, okay, I'm my first repository 2 and my first repository 1, and I don't know which one to pick. And so, yeah. So this is very much like IDE dependent. This is also why I hate using IDEs for Git, because I find this UI extremely confusing for me. I tend to just ignore this stuff and just be like, okay, look at the code, what do I need? Get rid of all this stuff. Once I get rid of this stuff, so, okay, what Git is looking for in the stuff, let's see, Git status. Okay, so you can see if I run Git status, it'll tell me my origin main, the remote, and my branch locally have diverged, which means they have different commits and they're not able to merge properly. So I need to fix the conflicts, where conflicts is determined by this information. This syntax tells me it's a merge. It also tells Git it's a merge. And we could abort the merge and say, nah, fam, I'm done, I quit. That's fine. You can do that. And you can go fix stuff a different way. That's okay. I will show you how to do that. There is a way-ish to deal with it. But if I wanted to personally change it right here, right now, I have to delete the appropriate thing, which is, again, these keys that say this is a merge conflict, and then pick whichever of the two or merge the two however I need to in the code. So we're going to go reject it. So normally, let's say I accepted the change and I would then go and make my commit message and say fixed merge, because this is now a new change that I need to save and push back up. Otherwise, everyone else is going to have the same issue. So I need to make the change and then push it. So that way other people know, hey, this is what the fix became when the merges happened, right? We're going to abort the merge because I want to show you the answer to another question that came earlier. So I'm going to abort it. And as you can see, it got rid of the issues. But what I am going to do is git status. It still has the local changes and the remote changes because I pulled. So if I git pull again, it's going to show me the same merge conflict. It's going to keep doing that. I'm going to try and undo my commit because I don't want to use it yet. So I forget how to do that exactly. Git undo local commit. There's a way to do it, and I normally know how to do it, but I don't want to mess it up, which is why I'm Googling it. There's different ways to do it. So that would be, come on. Are you gonna do it? No? No, you're not gonna yell at me? Okay, great. Okay. So I've Googled how do I undo the most recent local commits, which means I have not given it to GitHub. No one knows it exists except anyone at my desk. Local. Remember that. So apparently with VC, okay, that's great. I'm not that. I didn't know they have an undo. Okay. So let's say we have our commit message. We did that. We want to reset the head one instance. That's this little squiggly line right here. So remember how I said linked lists again? Git works like a linked list. You can pop off past history. So let's go move that over. We're going to do git. Oh, I lost it. Reset. If you don't know what these are, Google git reset head. What is head? It is the top. Okay, so it says unstaged changes after reset. Okay, let's do git status. we now have a modified README. We don't have a merge conflict anymore still, but we have this modified thing. If we add it and then we commit and then we pull, we're going to have a merge conflict. We are trying to avoid that. This doesn't always work, what I'm about to do, by the way. Okay? This does not always work. It's not that simple. It is that simple this time. But this is a way that you can handle things where you said, hey, how do I pull my changes locally without undoing the changes I did? So we're going to git stash. And it saves my working directory and index state. If I git status, nothing has changed. The 2 is gone. It has gone back to the last commit, which was initial commit. Now I git pull. Now it has my first repository 1. Now I'm going to go pop my stash. Think of it like a stack. I think it's git stash pop. Okay, once again, I have a conflict. But again, I know my first repository 1 came from cloud. My stash changes, which is so much easier to read than a git commit hash, I know is the new change. Sometimes this is easier for me to read when I'm overwhelmed because I'm like, oh yeah, of course I want to keep my stash changes. I'm updating stuff. Or no, my stash changes don't work right now. Let me comment them out for later. Or let me actually comment out the change because I need the stash changes. I'm merging things together like long term. This is easier for me to read than a commit hash, even though it's the same thing. And so you do the same thing. You would say, well, I don't need this. Oh, come on, are you really gonna just, there we go. Okay, so now I've deleted that. Now I delete this. And you can see that stuff has gone away. Now I have these 2 and I have to choose which one I'm keeping. And the answer is I'm keeping neither. I'm keeping that. Or I could do 1 and 2. If I can. Or I could do something else, right? There's different ways I can combine things. But because I got rid of that, I hit save. Now I go to status. It still says I need to go add it. But it's not going to be a merge conflict this time. It was a merge conflict, but it's not being saved as such. It's just a different way to fix the merge conflict in the way that you are comfortable with. So I'm going to go ahead and commit. Revert change through force. Oops, daisy. Did I do something? Oh, that's funny. Git commit. Oh, I didn't add it. I was doing too many things at once. Lol. Git add readme. This is why you add files, y'all. Git commit. There we go. Now I git push. No conflicts. Still was conflict. We just did it differently. Oh, wait. Did you all not see? No, you did see. Okay, good. That wasn't blocking the whole thing. You would have yelled at me if you had. Okay. So we did conflict. And then we did stash, which is helpful when you're like, oh, so use stash when you're in the middle of working on something, but you want to keep everyone's like work. Let's say your friend is working on stuff and they're like, hey, I just pushed stuff. You can be like, okay, cool. You stash your changes because you're still working on it. You pull stuff down and then you put your stuff on top and you go, okay, keep. Oh, I need to fix this. Handle it now. Okay, keep. Oh, I need to fix this. Handle it now. Depending on your process of committing versus not will determine what is more effective. It very much depends on the company, depends on how you collaborate. Your mileage may vary. So I use the stash method when I'm in the middle of something. Or I know I'm about to go rebase a lot of changes. I'm kind of like, I'm going to go put my stuff on a different branch. Yes, they are the same. They are the same. They're just using slightly different ways to do it. Depending on your preference and the volume of the changes. If you're like, oh, I'm so close to being done, let me just stash my changes. That's when I would use that. If I'm done and I need to go pull stuff, I'm going to have to deal with that as a merge conflict officially, like fully, completely, no stashing changes, because I know my commit needs to be kept together a certain way, right? All right, y'all, we did it. We did the hardest bit. Cool. So we did run over. We did run into bugs. I did teach you how to handle bugs somewhat. I didn't quite teach. I was vocalizing what I Googled. So I just wanted to make sure that when I opened Stack Overflow, it wasn't like showing all of my emails because I'm on the wrong window right now. But thank you very much for attending. I know we went over the 15-minute mark. It is almost 2 hours. You're welcome. I didn't want it to be. But Git can be very difficult if you are not willing to experiment, if you are scared of things. So doing things on purpose will help you learn. You are welcome to follow what I did at any point to get yourself familiar with different things like forcing a merge conflict or learning how to branch. We didn't get into actually branching itself, but I do know that I definitely covered that and how to do so in a different older video. So go back through Global Hack Weeks, look for something about Git and something that I was doing where it wasn't called Git Good with Git, but it was probably called something else, probably Get Familiar with Git or something like that. I don't know. I can't remember exactly, but if you want more detail, more explanations, there are definitely past videos for you. This was a great way to introduce you to the language. It's okay if you're still confused. Take your time through each. You will learn, like the commands I was using, I know because I've used them so much. You will come to know those like that too. Just because I'm doing it on CLI doesn't mean you have to, though it is very nice for when you are dealing with merge conflicts and you're like, I just want to do it one step at a time. UIs these days will do that. But when I was learning Git, that was not the case. It was like, oh, here, we'll do stuff. And I'm like, no. And I just like would freak out. So next thing on your list, if you're feeling like you want to challenge yourself, look into how Git merges. This will help you be a little less afraid of how Git merges things together. Looking at Git fast forward merge, looking at Git rebase, Git interactive rebase, those are great next steps for you. And as a last bit, if you happen to have the energy and time, as always, we are asking for feedback. So go to mlh.link/GHW feedback. Let us know what we could do better, what you wish would be more helpful, or if there's things that you wish would have changed. I know I definitely goofed on bugging just setting up the connection to the remote, but I also think it was a good exercise in like, hey, you goofed. How do you fix it? Because, well, first panic, of course, and then you go actually Google it and figure it out. So thank you very much for sticking with me. I am so glad you all hung around. Go get some rest. Enjoy the rest of your Global Hack Week. I think I'll actually be seeing y'all for a mini event later today and today in Global Hack Week tomorrow. But if you happen to be up in a couple hours, Varshini will be going over intro to cybersecurity or like questions about cybersecurity. That's in like 2 hours, I think, or an hour. Very happy that I got to have so many folks. I do see Crane's question. Unfortunately, you're going to have to wait for the next application round. I'm sorry. They're pretty strict because they're actively reviewing because they want folks to have time to like develop their community proposals and stuff. So I wish I could say like, yes, absolutely apply, but no, you got to wait for the next cycle. Alrighty. We did it, y'all. Have a good rest of your day. Good luck. See you all in future streams. All the best. Go get some rest.